We are in Puerto Rico to discover rainforest waterfalls and several design lessons that nature just gets right. But there's one twist. These incredible waterfalls would be a disaster in your backyard, and we only have one day to figure out why. And you don't want to miss the last one that I can't fix. So this is the first design flaw that wouldn't work in your backyard. What I'm seeing here is we are low on the watershed. So that means all of the rainwater, all of the runoff from the surrounding area, and we're talking hundreds of square miles of surface area, are all draining down into this one area. And what's happening is it's picking up pollutants off of the water and nutrients. All of those nutrients are going to cause excess algal growth, as well as, you can't smell it on this, but it actually stinks down here like decaying stuff. And that's because this is a depository for the entire watershed, and this is a recipe for disaster in any backyard ecosystem. So if this was in your backyard, first thing I would do is I would try to remove as much of that muck and sediment as possible to start the system out fresh, because this material has been accumulating for decades. And it only gets washed out during heavy gully washers or hurricanes that come through. So what we want to do is speed up that process, remove that excess sediment. Once we have a cleaner substrate to work with, I would increase the circulation, adding in a wetland filter to help to detoxify. And remember, those wetland filters are responsible for the breakdown of excess nutrients, which is exactly what's happening here. All right, let's continue going uphill because we only got a couple hours. We are on our second stop on our quest to actually evaluate all the waterfalls here in Puerto Rico. So this one is a small tributary that's feeding into a larger stream system. What I like about this is the scale actually fits. This would be considered a first order stream, which means it doesn't have really any tributaries coming into it. It's got a small flow, which means we could easily replicate this in a backyard situation. But what we can't replicate is bedrock like this. Unless you actually have that. This is limestone. This is a massive limestone wall, like a mini canyon that cuts through this area. And what happens, because of the powerful erosional forces of flowing water, it just cuts in and eats away at this limestone. This is very similar to the weathered limestone that we actually would use in the Chicagoland market. It is highly erodible. And what I love about it is it actually creates some very beautiful little trickles and falls and pools, which I think is a really neat little system. This is 100% the type of thing that we would design and build. But as I said, in order to truly pull it off, you need monolithic chunks of rock that you're going to bury under soil, which in a lot of backyard situations, we can't even get the equipment in place to actually make this work. But what I do love is the scale, the flow and everything is fantastic. During the heavy raining period, this is probably a torrent of water that's ripping through here. It's actually scouring away the bedrock itself. So now what I think we need to do is go find another spot. We have a limited time frame. We're gonna have to get on the road and see what we can find. Well, like everything that happens in life, we have a change in plans. So what I ended up doing was going back, getting the rest of the team that is here for this incredible Puerto Rican retreat. We wanted to share this experience with everybody. So we're at stop number 3. Beautiful, spectacular little plunge pool. What I love about this, again, is biomimicry. Looking at nature, the flow going through here is not actually giant right now, but this is 100% just flow coming from the surrounding mountainside, all getting funneled through this little bedrocky canyon. On top of all that, you have all that lush vegetation. So what I want to take away from this is how could I recreate it? To recreate this in a normal backyard would probably be impossible. And the reason being is look at the size of that rock. This is all bedrock that we're looking at. So to bring in something that has that specific type of a look would be cost prohibitive. Most properties would not be able to actually handle something like that. The other thing that I'm looking at is just some of the different edge treatments along the line. So how could I actually replicate some of these different things? So I love the idea of the bedrock, but anytime you have bedrock, you have to have some sort of a transition. You want to bring in the plants. You want to have the little slides and the alluvial fans that are usually found right at the base of these giant waterfalls. Because remember what happens in this. This is a natural ecosystem. During the heavy rains here in Puerto Rico or at the higher elevation, they have what's known as orographic precipitation. Orographic precipitation happens because of the hot, intense tropical sun. All that water moisture goes up into the upper atmospheres. It comes over these beautiful lush islands. As it has to rise up over those mountainous peaks, the temperature drops and it cools. When it does that, it condenses, so it comes down as fog, it comes down as rain, and even as massive hurricanes. And when you have massive, I'm talking 20-inch rain events, this would be violent coming through here. It would just be roaring through here, and it would be eroding everything away. And that's what gives it the look. This dense type of stone that they have here is getting worn away through that strong erosional process. Hydraulic action, not only that, but look at the bottom. I'm going to give you a handful of the gravel here. It's like a mixture of this. It's an unconsolidated mixture of sand and gravel and silts and clays and everything. So when you get enough velocity of water going through this stuff, this is going to be moving at a high rate of speed. It's going to be scouring the bottom of this entire riverbed, and that's what actually smooths these rocks off, because these rocks naturally are going to be very, very jagged. And if you look at them though, even these big craggy ones, they're going to be water worn just because of the speed of the water that's going through, that's carrying the river load itself, which is all of this stuff. And actually during heavy rains, even these boulders are going to get blasted out of the way just because of the sheer velocity. Water is the most powerful force on planet Earth. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with moving the sediments inside. This is really, really important when we're talking about naturalistic features. Not just naturalistic, truly natural features. This bedrock area, the water's moving so fast, sand and gravel is not going to be able to stay. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to dump it right in here, and we'll see actually what sticks. Now, if you actually look underwater at that picture, you can see most of the finer stuff, the sand, small gravels are gone. But there's actually a pile of bigger gravel that's actually still sitting here that actually made it. But it was, look at that, it was the bigger stuff. So this goes back to that Rain's equation that I was talking about. And that's all, it's basically, it talks about the velocity of water and how it interacts with the sediments and all the debris on the inside. The steeper the gradient, when you have bedrock, when you have very fast moving water going through small areas, that's going to pick up velocity, and it all comes down to that velocity calculation. And as we go further downstream, that's where it's going to be deposited for gravel, sandbars, different pockets and things like that. It's highly variable. It's going to change from year to year. We just heard everybody screaming in the distance. I can't wait to catch up with them because we're lagging behind looking at biomimicry stuff. We're looking at all the rocks and boulders, and they made it all the way up to that headwaters, and I can't wait to actually see what they found. Problem with this one is scale. I mean, just look at the size of this going from my right to left. It is just massive. So to recreate something like this is going to be very, very, very challenging. But what we can do is we could actually shrink it down. So we could think about the same concepts. We could condense that space down, still have some steep banks, and then planting heavily around the perimeter. So it really condenses the space and it focuses all of that energy. So another problem that I'm seeing on this particular spot is going to be the heavy forces of erosion. Erosion is incredibly powerful, and it just literally shapes our earth. So that fast moving water is going to plunge down over this more dense rock face, and then it scours itself out in these plunge pools because where I'm standing is a little bit softer. The bedrock might be a little bit deeper, so it's going to eat away at all that stuff because of that high velocity of water that's picking up all the rock and the gravel and all that material inside of it that's going to scour it away. So the difference is, in our backyard ecosystems, this is going to be changing. 10 years from now, it's going to be completely different. Backyard ecosystems are going to be very, very stable because we have specific flow rates that are going to be consistent. If I want to mimic this though, all I do is add in that secondary or tertiary pump, which we call a party pump. You're only going to turn that on periodically throughout your project, and that's going to give you a little bit more water flow so it mimics the changing fluctuations of nature. The other nice thing about that is river systems, because of their highly dynamic processes, they're meant to be scoured out. You don't want a lot of sediment building up in here because it's going to change the ecosystem. That's another reason why I like adding in secondary pump systems, because the increased water flow when you put on your secondary pump is going to sweep away any excess sediments that are building up in the stream system, and it's going to deposit it into the intake bay where it can be managed, and or the wetland filter where it can be broken down. with this waterfall is the height. Look at this thing. This is over 10 feet high behind me. In order to pull that off in a backyard application, you would have to bring in hundreds and hundreds of cubic yards of soil to build up the necessary elevation to create a waterfall of that scale. The water flow itself is not actually giant, but the scale of it, the height of it, the width of it, the size of the rocks, all these different things together make it impossible to replicate this. So the easiest way to do it, the concept of fractals. I love talking about fractals, expanding and contracting geometries. So by shrinking it down, but keeping everything into scale. So still using big rocks, but only one rock at a time per waterfall. So I don't want to be stacking rocks on top of each other. I want to have a big rock, and then I want to have a cascade behind it. But a big rock for me in a normal backyard situation might only be a 3-foot high waterfall. So it's going to definitely scale everything down. Are you kidding me? We made it. And this little section looks unbelievable. That's only part of it. It starts way up there. It's 142 foot high waterfall. Oh my gosh, I'm not even seeing that all the way up there. That is insane. All right, we have made it to the top. There's Locke. We are all enjoying everything. Is Yin behind. And we made it to the main waterfall, 142 feet tall, absolutely spectacular. Trying to mimic this, 100% impossible. In a backyard, unless you have a massive rock face. But I love coming here to learn. And look at these big giant slabs of rock that have broken off. The sheer forces of the water breaking away on everything. Not only that, but what happens, look at all the lush growth around the outside perimeters. Because of the high moisture and humidity content, little cracks and fissures are going to get, roots are going to grow through them. And those roots are actually going to continue to fracture and push rocks apart. They don't have freeze thaw like we have up in the north, but they have that abundant plant growth, which is actually going to be a huge game changer in something like this. Not only that, but as I mentioned, when they get their massive storm systems coming through, this must be just a violent, massive waterfall coming over it, and there would be no way for anybody to be located down in here because it would be deadly. You'd be swept away. There's no way to get out of this canyon during a heavy, heavy rainfall. But it would be unbelievable actually to witness it. It has been an incredible day, and we made it to our final destination, 142 foot high waterfall. We can't go any higher than that up here. It has been spectacular. Just exploring, learning from nature, biomimicry at its finest. These little riparian corridors, the area where the water meets the land, the most biologically diverse habitats on planet Earth are found in this area. More species of plants and animals are going to utilize these corridors for their life processes throughout their entire lifespan than anywhere else on our planet. So we want to protect these. And it's incredible to actually be able to go up and explore these natural ones, but it's even better if you could actually bring it back home and utilize some of the solutions that I came up with, utilizing those biomimicry concepts, and just make it a little bit smaller. Make it fit with your property. Remember, all we want to do is try to bring in that natural wildlife, and it all starts with water.